Hello and welcome to IDDTalks here at ADA University. My name is Anastasia Larina and now I'm joined by a very distinguished guest. Dr. Susan Allen, Henry Hart Rice Chair and Professor of Conflict Analysis and Resolution, Carter School. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. Right now we had a very good lecture at ADA University and I heard how the students were curious about the global processes. It's quite obvious how the diplomacy works, but time to time we have to understand better how the processes are taking place. Therefore, I would like to start with this question. Interactive peacemaking is about direct dialogue between conflicting groups. How can this dialogue build trust instead of deepening divisions in today's polarized world?
Thank you. That's a great question. It brings to mind, we had a wonderful question in the lecture today where a student said this is her third day of her undergraduate degree and she's brand new to studying diplomacy. And one of the things she wanted to know is, how can she move in and develop herself as a diplomat? And part of it is people skills. And so you raise the question of trust. And it's developing relationships with people who we can trust across some divides. And that can start with very small steps. I trust you to be diplomatic and you trust me to be diplomatic, and we begin with that kind of a conversation. And then we can build beyond that to trust to have a serious conversation, trust to be honest with each other, explore topics together, and then we can take other steps, trust to implement an agreement together. Maybe we start with the small steps and build the trust gradually.
But then I guess it should be some action.
It takes time.
It's not only the words, it's not only about the meetings, smiles and good speech. Two people and two persons should be dedicated to proceed further with the results achieved during the meeting.
And so the concrete actions can be a whole variety of different kinds of things. I think about an example, concrete is the actual material that there's a dam that is up high in the North Caucasus Mountains. It's called the Zankari Dam, and it's made out of concrete. And the Georgians and the Ossetians had to work together through a whole series of lots of talking. And then there were concrete steps to fix that concrete dam so that both sides could have irrigation water. That's an example of taking a concrete step.
The world is changing. There are a lot of geopolitical changes on the global stage. And we do remember the time when there were only 5 states, 5 countries who were trying to solve the global issues. But now there is a smaller countries who are also playing a very important role. And one of such countries is Azerbaijan. The country is in the South Caucasus, but now is being considered as a strong influencer also. So how can the smaller states, in your understanding, like Azerbaijan, benefit from multi-track diplomacy in strengthening regional peace and stability?
I think that when we go from the older view of maybe only 5 countries matter, that was a paradigm that was not sustainable. Everybody matters. Every country matters, every people matters, every ethnic group matters. You think about languages that are dying out because there are fewer speakers. Those languages matter. And keeping languages alive, keeping ethnic groups alive, keeping cultural groups. And that's a paradigm that's going to be more sustainable.
I want to know your personal opinion. I know that you have a good knowledge about the situation in the South Caucasus. And 2 countries, Armenia and Azerbaijan, had a long process to what we have today. They achieved agreements in Washington 8 with the participation of the U.S. President Donald Trump. But I would say that from your perspective, what are the most important conditions to make sure that the peace agreement is sustainable and is preceded by both parts?
So I think I won't speak specifically to this peace agreement because the people who are making this peace know it a lot better than I do. But what I will say is, in general, peace agreements, it's only one step in a long-term peace process because the implementation of a peace agreement involves a lot of additional negotiation. in any place around the world. A peace agreement lays out the broad principles, and then we need to find ways to implement them, and that takes a lot more work. One of the things is typically the peace agreement would be signed by senior leadership, presidents, and implementation then requires everybody. It's everybody from the border guards to business people to journalists to the whole part of all of society gets involved in the long-term implementation over generations.
You mentioned a very important term, I guess, during the lecture, back-channel diplomacy. And it's really very important because, as I can understand, it's not only about the heads of the states, but it's also about different channels, the contacts, which also contribute to the broad process. I can bring an example of our country, Azerbaijan, because the negotiation continued since the ceasefire was achieved in 1994 and until 2025 when we had that meeting in Washington and achieved results. So it became possible only when two leaders agreed on every single term and put their signature. Despite the fact that there were so many attempts when civil servants, journalists trying to bring the peace, again, it became possible only when two leaders achieved the desired results. Therefore, how do you see this back-channel diplomacy works? And maybe you have any specific example where it was actually quite valuable.
Well, yeah, I think that, again, I won't speak to this particular context because you live it and you know it better than I do. But in general, when leaders meet and sign a peace agreement, generally there's been a lot of preparatory work before that. So generally whether it's back channel or whether it's front channel, but quieter, advisors meeting before presidents meet, generally there's a lot of even years of preparation that go into the actual peace agreement signing. That's usually how it would work. And so you need both the preparation work and the people who are out in front of the cameras taking the brave step of signing agreements.
So just to conclude, taking into account your great experience, your knowledge in this particular sphere, do you believe that interactive peacemaking and multi-track diplomacy, that is exactly what we need to address the world's emerging conflicts?
I would say that we often in the news, we hear about only the senior official level, when presidents come together, that's what makes the news. And I think we're missing part of what else is also needed. That after there's a peace agreement signed, there's still a whole of society approach needed for long-term implementation. Reconciliation over generations, rebuilding bridges, both physical bridges and metaphorical bridges, building connections and business opportunities and all sorts of approaches that will help societies recover from wartime.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing with us your valuable experience. We wish you good luck.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking with you.